Luo Feng, Lord Stag Bug, the Holy-Eyed Race, the Bone Race and the Ancestral God Religion, the five of them became 5 beams of light and flew through space towards the tombboat. Rumble, the ancient ship floating above the black swamp began to tremble. Following that, a door gradually appeared on one side of the wall. The door slowly rose and the passage grew larger and larger. Over there. The cabin door of the tombboat has opened. Hurry up and enter. The 5 beams of light changed their flight paths and rushed straight towards the passage with the door in the distance. Lord Stag Bug, you are the strongest and most familiar with the tombboat. I think you should be the last to enter. Maniacal laughter resounded, and at the same time, gray golden shadows swept toward the Lord of the Stag Bug wantonly. In midair, the countless gray golden shadows converged and turned into a huge, unadorned machete. Lord Stag Bug, you already have a powerful treasure. Why are you still fighting with us? A cold voice belonging to the first ancestral god religion resounded. In an instant, countless butterflies of all colors appeared in the air and flew madly towards Lord Stag Bug. Lord Stag Bug. The Bone Race and the Holy-Eyed Race, who had always been at odds with each other, also attacked Lord Stag Bug. Yet none of them attacked Luo Feng. Obviously, Lord Stag Bug was too much of a threat to them. He was the strongest and most knowledgeable about the tombboat. If they did not work together to stop him, the tombboat would definitely fall into Lord Stag Bug's hands. None of the universe lords present were fools. They naturally knew what to do. The huge void cleaver, the countless drunken dream butterflies, the white whirlwind, under these attacks, the pyramid that was originally flying at high speed instantly disappeared. A mutated beast appeared in midair. It had a body covered in black scales. It was huge and its entire body seemed to be a weapon. The joints of its hundreds of claws all had sharp hooks, and its tail was similar to a scorpion's. However, its tail had close to 1,000 segments, and each segment had a strange green ring. The moment the beast appeared, Luo Feng felt his heart tremble. The only normal part of the beast was its head, which looked like a deer. Deer worm. Luo Feng thought. Lord of the Deer Bug could transform into a heaven-defying mutated beast with the help of a supreme treasure. After obtaining the supreme treasure, he changed his title to Lord of the Deer Bug, and this mutated beast was named Deer Bug. Hiss. The stag sprinted through the void at high speed. At the same time, its gentle head let out a roar that caused the void to tremble. The void trembled and ripples visible to the naked eye appeared, spreading in all directions. The gigantic void machete, the countless drunken dream butterflies, the white whirlwinds, were all destroyed by this roar. Imhi, follow me. Deer Bug flew over, and at the same time, a divine voice transmission was transmitted over. Alright, Luo Feng was speechless, but his speed didn't decrease. Lu Chong is going crazy. He's using a supreme treasure as soon as he arrived. Stop him. If we can't stop him, we definitely won't be able to obtain the tombboat. Slow him down. Milky Way Overlord, aren't you going to help stop Lord Deerworm? If we let him go in first, I'm afraid we won't get any treasures. Milky Way Overlord, let's stop Deerworm first. 2 transmissions requested Luo Feng to act. Luo Feng didn't care at all. Milky Way Overlord, don't tell me you think you can obtain the tombboat by following Lord Deerworm? You'll regret it later. You guys really talk a lot of nonsense. Luo Feng's voice resounded. If you regret it, attack me if you have the guts. A few cold snorts could be heard. The Holy-Eyed Race, first ancestral god religion and Bone Race didn't care about Luo Feng at all. At this time, they wouldn't split a portion of their strength to deal with Luo Feng. Their greatest enemy was Lord Deerworm. The 3 of them used their domains to unleash heavy attacks, madly surrounding and attacking Lord Deerworm. One had to know that those who dared to roam the inner regions were usually rank 5 universe lords. Very few of them were rank 4 universe lords with extremely strong survival abilities. At this time, the 3 of them were attacking together. That beast Deerworm sprinted through space and let out roars. The sound waves were incredibly powerful. However, with the Holy-Eyed Race, first ancestral god religion and Bone Race all unleashing their attacks, Lord Deerworm's speed obviously slowed down. So, Lord Stag Bug slowed down, and the blood-colored streak of light that was following closely behind him instantly overtook him. Was Luo Feng. Don't worry about Milky Way. He doesn't even know the layout of the tombboat. As long as we block Lord Deerworm, there won't be any problems. Lord Deerworm didn't ask for Luo Feng's help. Instead, he broke through the attacks again and rushed towards the door. Even though the distance was far, how fast were Luo Feng and the others? A blood-red stream of light instantly rushed into the entrance of the gate. Following closely behind, Lord Deerworm, Holy-Eyed Race, Bone Race and first ancestral god religion, who were fighting each other, rushed through the door almost simultaneously. It was very safe inside the tombboat. All the powerful warriors had their pinnacle palace treasures. Those who could make it to the Fire Ice region had at least 1 pinnacle palace treasure. Luo Feng, who was the first to rush in, looked around. After rushing through the door, they quickly arrived at an incomparably huge and spacious plaza, or a large hall. In short, this huge plaza had a diameter of hundreds of millions of kilometers. There was nothing in the spacious plaza, only the extremely smooth ground. That was all. And at the edge of the plaza, there were many passageways leading in different directions. This made Luo Feng suspicious. He didn't know which direction to choose. If he chose wrongly, then he would waste a lot of time. If he wasted that time, the other powerful warriors would have found the control core and recognized him as their master. Milky Way, follow me. Lord Deerworm suddenly said. Lord Deerworm immediately flew into the distance. LuoFeng's eyes lit up and he followed closely. On the Holy-Eyed Race's side, only two universe lords appeared, Lord of Shadow Dust and Lord of Voodoo Venom. Only one from the first ancestral god religion appeared, Lord Lugio. Only one from the Bone Race appeared, Lord of Black Sea. As Lord Deerworm and LuoFeng moved, the four of them instinctively chased after them. Keep an eye on Lord Deerworm. He knows where to go. Keep Deerworm busy. Don't let Milky Way take advantage of him. Immediately, the four universe lords chasing behind immediately unleashed their attacks. Some were soul attacks, some were long-range weapon attacks, and some were domain attacks. In an instant, the four behind and the two in front exchanged blows at lightning speed. They were all advancing at high speed. This Deerworm wants me to attract some of the opponent's attacks. LuoFeng chased and looked at Deerworm ahead as he thought to himself. However, if I team up with the Holy-Eyed Race, Bone Race, and First Ancestral God Religion, I'm the weakest compared to those three. Even if I can hold Lord Deerworm back, how can I compete with those three when it comes to fighting for treasures? But if I follow Deerworm and he attracts most of the firepower, maybe I can take advantage of the chaos. LuoFeng chased from behind. Everyone present had their own plans. Along the internal passageway of the tomb boat, 6 silhouettes advanced at high speed. Lord Deerworm was indeed the target of everyone. His speed had obviously slowed down, and he was now shoulder to shoulder with LuoFeng. Milky Way, if I'm stopped, you'll have a huge advantage. Deerworm glanced at LuoFeng and said, I'm being attacked now too. LuoFeng was like a beast god. His movements were swift and fierce, his right claw whistling, the four chasing behind were powerful. However, if they were only obstructing him from afar and they weren't going all out against LuoFeng, why would LuoFeng care? That's it. Lord Deerworm suddenly rushed forward. With a rumble, one of the horns on his head smashed into one of the walls of the revolving passageway. Rumble, the diagrams on the wall immediately caved in. Following which, a huge gate descended from the top of the passageway, rumbling as it landed on the ground. The four silhouettes rushed over. Seeing this huge gate, they were immediately enraged. Damn it. I've said it before. Deerworm is the most dangerous. Nether Ocean Leader, you idiot, you still split your attention to attack Milky Way? That Milky Way doesn't even know anything about this. Why would Deerworm tell him such a crucial secret? Hence, by stopping Deerworm, even if we let Milky Way go, he won't be able to find us within a short period of time. You trash from the Holy-Eyed Race only knows how to talk after the fact. Why didn't you say anything when I attacked LuoFeng earlier? Alright. Let's hurry and find another path. This is a tomb boat. There are many paths within the boat. There won't just be one path leading to one place. Let's hurry. If we're too slow, Deerworm might use some other method to close the path. The female master of the Holy-Eyed clan kicked the gate unwillingly. Rumble. The gate didn't budge. However, Deerworm Lord took 3 steps back. Let's go. Deerworm Lord turned and brought the Shadow Cloud Lord to swiftly find another path. Deerworm Lord and LuoFeng continued to fly. Deerworm Lord is indeed powerful. Respect. LuoFeng said. I've studied the 2 tomb boats before. Is it strange that I know of them? Deerworm Lord smiled and glanced at LuoFeng. At this time he had already returned to his original appearance, a bald man. He said directly, Milky Way, I pulled you before. 1 was because I had 1 less enemy. You were the only one I could pull. 2 was to give him another opponent. However now, you're of no use. LuoFeng was shocked. Actually, he had already been very careful when the gate had closed. Because there were no external enemies. The chances of Deerworm Lord acting against him were very high. And his opponent's strength was obviously beyond his own. Relax, I've roamed the universe sea for so long. I'm not like those madmen from the first universe era. Deerworm Lord said leisurely. The tomb boat is very valuable. Just by itself, even though it's weaker than the palace treasures. It's still better than any of the pinnacle palace treasures. And you can rely on it to enter the tomb. Its value is even higher than the wonders. It's extremely close to an absolute treasure. They're crazy. However, I'm not crazy. Because in my long lifespan the most interesting part is taking risks. The most important part is the process. As long as you work hard, failure doesn't matter. Deerworm Lord was very relaxed. Simultaneously, he became a beam of light and followed the winding path. LuoFeng didn't care about him. Failure didn't matter? Didn't care? If his race could exist forever, he too could exist forever. Then he too could be this carefree. I've guessed correctly. Ahead is the core room. The control core should be inside. Deerworm Lord glanced at LuoFeng. He communicated, let's see our strength. Who gets the control core? Alright. LuoFeng didn't waste any time, maintaining his high speed and becoming a beam of light. After a turn, there was a huge, exquisite door ahead. The entire door was gold and green, it was filled with a sense of nobility. It would only make countless living beings feel superior, their hearts trembling and not daring to enter. LuoFeng and the Deer Bug Lord's willpower was extremely firm, they pushed the door at almost the same time. Rumble. The door opened. Control room. Pushing open the door and entering was a majestic, vast and magnificent hall. There were many ornaments placed on the floor of the hall, and there were also some ornaments hanging on the walls. Rumble. The moment Luo Feng entered, his divine body shot out a large amount of divine power threads without hesitation, madly rushing in all directions of the great hall. There was a hint of madness in his eyes. Even though I, Luo Feng, can't recognize the control core, it's very safe inside this tombboat. There's no damage from the outside environment. Then, I can brand my life imprint on everything and instantly verify it once. I don't even need to know which is the control core because all the items I'll try to recognize the owner. Luo Feng looked at the distant deer bug lord. The moment the deer bug lord entered, he was trying to identify the control core. Suddenly seeing Luo Feng disperse so much god energy, he couldn't help but be shocked. Milky Way leader, why are you scattering so much god energy? What do you think? Luo Feng smiled. My knowledge can't compare to yours, hence I can only use such a stupid method. This is the tombboat. You think the way to recognize the owner is just to imprint a life imprint? So simple? The deer bug lord mocked. Haha, I didn't tell you before the true method to recognize the core. Luo Feng's expression changed. Right. Even the strongest treasure's owner recognition process was very complicated. The tombboat's core recognition process was probably a little complicated too. Do you know why I'm roping you in? Apart from the two reasons I mentioned earlier, the third reason is, those fellows from the first cycle are more knowledgeable. Perhaps some of them know how to control the core and make it recognize its owner, Lord of Deerbug said mockingly. They're my biggest enemies. Come, if you have the ability to find the control core, I won't interfere. As he spoke, the Deerbug Lord swiftly scanned the area. As expected, he still had a trick up his sleeve. Luo Feng thought, everything was within his expectations. Since it's hard to find him, then? Luo Feng quickly made his decision. Most of his attention was placed on the Deerbug Lord, carefully observing its expressions and other things to determine his target. Lord Stagbug had a mocking smile on his face as he leisurely searched for the control core. Soon he had checked everything in the control room. This caused Lord Stagbug's expression to change slightly. He carefully checked every item in the hall, and his expression changed drastically. Impossible. How could it not be? Why isn't the control core in the control room? Impossible. Lord of the Stagbug revealed an expression of anger. It was as if all of his plans had been for naught, making him feel very uncomfortable. After all, the value of the tombboat was already close to that of a supreme treasure. Just the fact that it was indestructible meant that it was second only to the most powerful treasures in the palace. In addition, it could enter the tomb. Even Lord of the Stagbug had only obtained one treasure that was better than the graveyard boat. His Stagbug divine armor. One tombboat was about to be in his hands and now it was gone. How could he not be angry? Lord of the Stagbug, I'm afraid you've miscalculated. Luo Feng laughed softly. The control core might not be in the control room. What do you know? Lord of the Stagbug snorted coldly. The control room is where the owner of the tombboat resides. That ancient civilization has a very strict hierarchy. This control room is where the owner resides and it's incomparably noble. Other warriors wouldn't dare barge in. You can see it from the door earlier, and the control core is always in the control room. This is the norm. Norm? And how many tombboats have you seen? Luo Feng shook his head and laughed. Suddenly, Luo Feng's expression changed slightly as he turned to look at the door behind him. Lord of the Stagbug also turned to look. For beams of light rushed through the door at almost the same time. Lord of the Stagbug's expression changed. Haha, Lord of the Stagbug, aren't you trying to stop us? However, this is a huge ship after all. There are many passageways and there's more than one that leads to the core room. Lord of the Sea of the Bone Race laughed mockingly. And from the looks of it, Lord of the Stagbug hasn't gotten the control core. Lord of the Voodoo Domain said. Hurry and find it. Lord of Shadow Cloud said. Lord Lugio didn't say a word as he swiftly began to search for the control core. Lord of the Voodoo Domain snorted coldly and suddenly waved his arm. Immediately, countless drops of golden blood sprayed in mid-air. The drops of golden blood separated and landed on every part of the hall. Holy-eyed race. No wonder you're from the Holy-eyed race. You even know such a method of verification. Lord of the Voodoo Domain snorted. You think only your sacred land universe knows this? Lord of the Voodoo Domain laughed coldly. Following which, his expression changed. How could there not be? After all, the Holy-eyed race was the #1 power in the 3 reincarnation eras. Compared to the 2 sacred land universes, they were extremely close. In terms of the masters of the universe, the Holy-eyed race was weak. However, in terms of the strongest in the universe, the Holy-eyed race was actually stronger than the 2 sacred land universes. The information gathered by the Holy-eyed race in the past 3 reincarnation eras was indeed very rich and they knew a lot. The drop of blood was one of the ways to verify the control core. Once it was verified, it could be recognized as the master. The process of recognizing the master was more complicated. No, there's no control core. Lord of Shadow Cloud was shocked too. How could this be? Don't tell me Lord of the Voodoo Domain has it? Lord of the Sea of Fear's eyes burned with madness. If I had it, would I still be standing here like a fool? Lord of the Deer Bug laughed coldly. That's weird. How could there be no control core? The 6 experts spread out in the hall, and they were all confused for a moment. Rumble, a formless energy suddenly descended. Lord of the Voodoo Domain, Luo Feng, Lord of Shadow Cloud, Lord of the Voodoo Domain, Lord Lugio, the 6 of them turned at the same time to look ahead. Above the control room's hall was an ancient throne. At this moment, The formless energy gathered on the throne and gradually formed a blurry silhouette that finally became clear. It was a seemingly ordinary human man. 2 eyes, a nose, a mouth, 2 hands, 2 legs, black eyes, yellow skin and green hair. He looks very human. He also looks like the most ordinary member of the Purple Moon Sacred Land. There's no pressure at all. Luo Feng and the others looked at the blurry silhouette in shock. The green-haired human man sitting on the throne wore a simple patterned armor. At first glance, the armor looked like an endless surging river. He looked down with a cold gaze and said, "My name is Duandong River Wu." This made Luo Feng and the others shocked. Wu is an extremely honorable title in the ancient civilization. To have the word Wu at the end of one's name, one's status must be extraordinary. Lord of Shadow Cloud was very serious. "I know a little but only a little. Don't say it. If the ancient civilization warriors find out, I'm afraid they'll laugh at you." Lord of the Voodoo Domain sneered at him. "Umph." Lord of Shadow Cloud stared coldly at Lord of the Voodoo Domain. The green-haired man on the throne didn't seem to notice the situation below. He continued coldly, "Juniors from the endless reincarnations, when you see me, I've already fallen in countless reincarnations. Back when I followed the general on this final adventure, I knew that the chances of survival weren't high. Indeed. This path is the most difficult one. Even the most powerful ships, even the most valiant and powerful experts still failed. When I expected to fail, I didn't want my inheritance to end. I, Duandong River Wu. I'm the 192nd Duandong River. And the only inheritor. The generations of ancestors have all died in battle. In my hands, who knows how long it's been. If I were to die, the inheritance would end in my hands. I've let down my ancestors. This tomb boat has been modified by me. It's different from the normal tomb boats. Within this tomb boat, there are many more dangerous areas of inheritance. I can die. However, the inheritance of the Duandong River cannot end. If you're afraid, you can leave now. Otherwise, once you step on this path, it'll be even more dangerous. Especially at the end, when you come into contact with the true inheritance of my Duandong River, only the inheritor will survive. Otherwise, none of you will be able to receive the inheritance and all of you will die. The earlier you leave, the safer you will be. The later you leave, especially when you come into contact with a trace of the inheritance. If it's not the Duandong River, other beings that covet my inheritance will die. Make your choice, juniors." The voice dissipated, and so did the figure on the throne. For a moment, the atmosphere in the hall was oppressive. The eyes of the 6 present were filled with madness, excitement, worry, and many other emotions. Inheritance. The true inheritance. Why were the 7 true Lord ranks of the Holy-Eyed race so powerful? It was because the Holy-Eyed race had obtained a complete inheritance in an ancient site that allowed the 7 true Lord ranks to unleash unparalleled power when they joined forces. Therefore, in the cosmic sea, the most precious thing was undoubtedly this complete inheritance that could be cultivated from low to high. And the inheritance this time, was the inheritance of the Duandong River? From the sound of it, this Duandong River should be one of the most powerful lineages in the ancient civilization. Every lineage only had one successor. His name had the word Wu in it, and he could even modify a tomb boat. And from his tone, he even followed the general on this journey. So the so-called general should be the general of the universe boat? His status should also be extremely high. Obviously, the inheritance of the Duandong River was extremely precious. Even if this Duandong River died, he would leave the inheritance behind. An ancient inheritance that had an endless history. There might even be ancestors that were stronger than this Duandong River. Therefore, one could not judge this inheritance based on the strength of the Duandong River Wu. Perhaps this inheritance was even more profound, but this Duandong River had not cultivated to it. No matter what, in short, the inheritance of the Duandong River was definitely the most precious inheritance. But once one stepped on this path, the outcome would be terrifying. Once one touched a trace of the inheritance, either accept the complete inheritance or die. The voice of Duandong Rivers Wu seemed to be echoing faintly in the great hall of the control room, making the great hall even more silent. Dear Bug Lord, Lu Jiao, Shadow Cloud Lord, Shaman Puppet Lord, Scarlet Ocean Lord and Luo Feng, their eyes were filled with struggle and madness. Go or not. I come from the sacred land universe, an eternal being that will never fall. If I go, there's the danger of falling. If I don't go, I'll miss out on this opportunity. Dear Bug Lord struggled. Just how strong was that ancient civilization? The Shadow Cloud Lord squinted, the one eye behind him flickered too. Obviously his emotions were fluctuating intensely, to be able to create a universe boat. Like the black engraved stone pillar and the large amount of items, it's just one of the items in the universe boat. This inheritance from Duandong Wu, even in the ancient civilization, is unique. What a noble inheritance. However, such an inheritance, one can only imagine the difficulty. Chance, the only chance, the only chance. The Scarlet Ocean Lord's eyes were filled with madness. Give me a chance. This time. Lu Jiao's perfect face was filled with hesitation. Everyone present was struggling. Luo Feng too was struggling. His entire body's god energy surged uncontrollably, causing ripples in the surroundings. This time he thought it would be a fight for the tomb boat, but who would have thought? This tomb boat was just a bonus. The more important thing was that it contained an extremely powerful inheritance from the ancient civilization. The inheritance moved the heart. However, there was the danger of falling too. Luo Feng understood too that even though he had a clone and could use the ancient civilization's methods, since he dared to say those who covet his inheritance would die, then the punishment definitely wouldn't be as simple as dealing with a clone. Should I go? I, Luo Feng, have only trained for 10 eras. Even without this encounter, I believe with my strength, becoming a universe lord would be a piece of cake. After that, becoming the strongest in the universe, there's hope. Luo Feng thought, however the moment I accept this inheritance it'll be a true risk. Should I take the risk? Luo Feng hesitated. I only have a guarantee of becoming a universe lord. And I have no idea how to become the strongest in the universe. So what if I become the strongest in the universe? Luo Feng thought, to truly be eternal, I have to succeed in the reincarnation. It's a pity that over the countless eras in the cosmic sea who has succeeded. It's only those two sacred lands. Luo Feng's mind thought back to the Black Token Room's independent space. He saw the information left behind on the smooth cliff wall by the previous space masters. The first, the second, the third. From the 9 Mortal Lord to 5 Chaos Lord in Luo Feng. There had been a total of 20,295 masters of the realm. No one knew how many masters there were before the Lord of Jiufan. Just from this alone, one could tell how many reincarnation eras it had gone through. In the endless reincarnation era, how many people with heaven-defying talent are there? But only 2 sacred land universes. In every reincarnation era, there are dozens of strongest experts in the universe. Tens of thousands of reincarnation eras and even longer, just how many experts were there in the universe? Who can be eternal? Luo Feng looked up and stared at the throne in the palace. His eyes were filled with passion. This is a chance encounter. That incomparably powerful ancient civilization has an extremely powerful inheritance. According to my judgment, Duandong River Wu's position in the universe boat is at the very top. Even in the ancient civilization this opportunity is very precious. With this inheritance, I can see further, higher than the strongest in the universe. With the guidance of this inheritance, I can walk even higher. Just as everyone in the palace was struggling with their thoughts, suddenly an energy appeared. Master Jin Fong, since you want to come out, I'll let you. What you choose is up to you. The master of Shaman Chi coldly said. A golden-armored man from the Divine-Eyed clan appeared beside him. It was the master of the Golden Square, who had been hiding in the supreme treasure of the palace. Although he did not come out, he had clearly seen and heard everything that had happened outside. Naturally he could no longer endure it. Rumble. Beside him, another figure appeared. It was a tall and evil figure that was completely red. It looked like it was formed from blood bones. It was the Bone Clan warrior. Scarlet Mantis, this is a matter of life and death. I won't stop you. The Scarlet Sea Master said directly. Yes. The Scarlet Mantis Master nodded. You all have helpers. The Lugio Master waved his hand. Beside him, a tall and burly man with 8 arms appeared. His body was like stone. He said in a low rumbling voice, Lugio, if you say go, I'll go. If you don't go, I won't go either. The Rock Giant Master? Wherever the Lugio Master is, the Rock Giant Master will be there. The Shaman Gu Lord sneered. Dear Bug, do you have helpers? Inhi, do you have helpers? The God-Eyed Race, Bone Clan, and the First Ancestor God Sect all had helpers. However, they were just hiding from one helper. Actually, this was normal. In the depths of the inner region, unless one was extremely confident like the Deer Bug, they usually moved in pairs. For example, the Scarlet Mantis Master and the Scarlet Sea Master moved together. The Shadow Dust Master and the Shaman Gu Lord moved together. The Lugio Master and the Rock Giant Master moved together. And the Jin Fong Master just happened to run into this matter. I've always moved alone in the cosmic sea. The Deer Bug said directly. I don't have any helpers either. Luo Feng shook his head. Haha, 3 from the God-Eyed Race, 2 from the Bone Clan, 2 from the First Ancestor God Sect, he and I, a total of 9. The Deer Bug laughed. This choice isn't easy. However, such an opportunity is hard to come by. Even in the Purple Moon Sacred Land, I've never heard of such a mysterious inheritance. There are some ordinary inheritances, but they're probably left behind by the ordinary warriors in the universe ship. However, they obviously can't compare to this Duan Dong River Wu. And once those ordinary warriors die, even if they leave behind some danger, it won't be a threat to me. But this Duandong River Wu, since he dared to say such words, I'm afraid that even if he perished, the methods he left behind can deal with the strongest experts of the universe. Lord Stagbug's gaze swept across the crowd. Everyone think carefully. Just as everyone was struggling within. On the throne in the main hall, energy gathered, forming a green-haired silhouette. It was Duandong River. Have you thought it through? Duandong River stood up and walked down, looking at the 9 silhouettes below. And Luo Feng, the Deer Bug Lord, and the others all understood, this was probably just some sort of AI left behind by Duandong River. As for Duandong River himself, he had died long ago. Rise. Duandong River pointed at the floor of the main hall and roared softly. The main hall immediately began to rise. A huge round stone slab floated up, revealing a deep hole. That deep hole, with a glance, it was a patch of red. Occasionally there were red energy waves twisting about. If you're willing to accept the inheritance, go down. Duandong River said directly. I'll choose you according to my Duandong River's method of choosing my inheritors. As you pass the tests, you'll gradually come into contact with the inheritance. The moment you do, it'll be a life and death crisis. If you successfully accept the inheritance, you'll live. If you can't completely accept it just a little bit, you'll die. If you're afraid now, you can leave immediately. The gate is open, it won't close. You can even invite your clansmen and friends to try. The more the better, this way there'll be a higher chance of a new Duandong River. Duandong River's gaze swept past the 9 silhouettes. Make your choice. Following that, his silhouette dissipated like dust, turning into nothingness. The round stone slab floated high up, revealing the endless red tunnel below to enter or not to enter. I'm nearing the end of my life, yet I get such a chance. The Scarlet Flame Lord said solemnly. With the ancient civilization's methods, even though I'm in the first reincarnation era, I can still become the strongest in the universe, even passing through reincarnation. Even the ancient civilization can't break through the restrictions. Then, the moment I receive the inheritance, I can guide the strongest in the bone race universe. As long as one of them succeeds, the third sacred land universe will be born. Wah. Wah. A crimson stream of light flashed past in an arc and flew directly into the deep passageway, disappearing without a trace. This is my only chance before my death, how can I miss it? Lord Lugio smiled, becoming a beam of light and flying in too. Lugio. A low and thick voice resounded. If you go there, I'll go there. The rock giant lord followed without hesitation, becoming a beam of light and flying in too. Shadow dust. Shaman. The couple exchanged glances and laughed. Go. They entered together. Haha. The gold square lord laughed loudly. If I'm going to die, I'll just die earlier. After a while, the first universe era's warriors all entered, leaving only the deer bug lord and Luo Feng outside. Are you going? The deer bug lord looked at Luo Feng. What about you? Luo Feng asked. The deer bug lord's gaze was distant, saying softly, so what if it's eternal? My life's passion lies in adventuring, my clan's absence doesn't affect me at all. The sacred land universe is eternal. This inheritance is hard to come by in the endless eras, if I miss it I'll regret it. This adventure may be my biggest one, but if I go, dying in it will be worth it. I'll go first. The deer bug lord became a beam of light and flew in. Only Luo Feng was left in the entire palace. Even if I die as I'm a universe knight, I still have a chance to revive. The price of reviving me may be huge, but I can afford it. Luo Feng looked at the red abyss. I originally wanted to let the golden horned beast bring the star pagoda and leave, but the moment I really die, the star pagoda will become an ownerless object, floating within the universe ship, being sucked into some dangerous areas, or even taken away by other powers. Then I'll bring the star pagoda and enter it together. With it, I'll have more confidence in dealing with the many dangers. I'll bet everything on it just this once. If I succeed, my humanity will be eternal. So, Luo Feng became a beam of light and rushed into the red abyss. Flying into the red waves, he felt the time and space warp as though he was flying in a universe pathway. Wah! His eyes gleamed. Ahead was a palace shrouded in white mist. The material of the palace was the same as the pathways and cabins of the tombboat, dark gray. At this moment, there were 8 masters of the universe in the hall, including the Lord of Deer Bug, the Lord of Shadow Dust, the Lord of the Dark Sea, and the Lord of Lugio. They also turned their heads to look. So, Luo Feng immediately flew over. Milky Way Lord, you've only trained for a dozen eras, it's incomparably short and you're here too. Deer Bug Lord laughed. We were just discussing whether or not Milky Way would come. If I were you, and from the primal universe I'm still 2 more eras away from the end of my lifespan, I can still live for a long time. You've trained for such a short time and your accomplishments are already so high, there's no need for you to fight with us. Actually, you can leave now. The Master of Shadow Dust had a very kind expression on his face. Since I'm here, I won't leave. Luo Feng said indifferently. Even if you come, you'll die. Scarlet Ocean Lord stared coldly at Luo Feng. Since this junior wants to die, there's no need to care about him. Scarlet Mantis Lord said coldly. The bone race was a crazy and cold race, they would only unite within their own race, they were extremely hostile to outsiders. Especially towards this Luo Feng who had trained for a dozen eras and had such accomplishments, he felt a sense of jealousy. Actually, the Shadow Dust Lord, Shaman Lord, Scarlet Mantis Lord and the others who chose to come and take the risk to obtain the inheritance were actually the most hostile towards Luo Feng. They were very clear. Choosing an inheritor, one would usually focus on speed of improvement, comprehension, etc. Training for a dozen eras or close to 3 eras, there wasn't much of a difference in accomplishments. Who would Duandong he choose? Was there a need to say? They could only hope that Duandong he's technique was unable to determine how long the warriors here had lived. However, against Duandong he, they only felt that he was deep and unfathomable, hence they had no confidence and wished for Luo Feng to leave early. When Luo Feng and the other 9 were in the misty palace, mocking each other, suddenly a formless energy began to gather beside them. It was the green-haired Duandong he. All 9 are here. Duandong his gaze swept over the 9 powerhouses and he nodded. Then let the first round of elimination begin. Filter. The Deer Bug Lord, Shadow Cloud Lord, Luo Feng and the others all tensed up. No one dared to say they could pass the selection. Rise. East Duanha pointed towards the floor of the palace. Wah. The ground suddenly parted, and a strange machine began to gradually emerge from it. This was an instrument similar to a Rubik's Cube. It was dark red in color, and its surface was covered with many mysterious law runes. The mysteriousness of these runes made all the powerhouses present feel dizzy and unable to understand them. A door suddenly appeared on the Rubik's Cube. One goes in and one is selected. Duandong has said directly, only one can enter at a time. Let's begin. The 9 experts looked at each other. Who would go first? This strange and unpredictable Rubik's Cube looked quite dangerous. For a moment, none of the experts present were willing to be the first to enter. You go in. Duandong pointed at Lord of the Deer Bug. This is just the beginning of the selection. Lord of the Deer Bug will definitely make it. Right? How would this be difficult for Lord of the Deer Bug? The other masters of the universe from the first reincarnation era instantly relaxed, and they even started to tease him. Lord Stag Bug, on the other hand, smiled faintly and did not say much. He directly walked towards the Rubik's Cube, took a step and entered it. Following which the door of the Rubik's Cube closed. The engravings on the surface of the Rubik's Cube began to light up. Rumble. A powerful energy rippled within the Rubik's Cube, causing the entire Rubik's Cube to turn from dark red to a glaring white. Just what is happening inside? Luo Feng was nervous within. Selection. Just what was being selected? Everything was unknown. Lord of the Deer Bug didn't make any sound inside. Maybe he was howling in pain, but the sound couldn't be heard. Anyway, because they couldn't enter the Rubik's Cube, everyone was anxious. After a while, the door opened. A silhouette walked out from the Rubik's Cube. It was Lord of the Deer Bug, and his expression was one of confusion. Even the other 8 didn't understand. It seemed like something had happened to Lord of the Deer Bug that entered, hence his expression. First selection qualified. Duandong, he glanced at Lord of the Deer Bug. Lord of the Deer Bug immediately revealed a look of glee. Lord of the Deer Bug, just what is inside? Lord Lugio said. Congratulations, Lord of the Deer Bug, I wonder what is inside? Lord Shaman said too. Only these 2 ladies spoke up at this time. You'll know once you enter. Lord of the Deer Bug stood aside after saying that. He had already passed this baffling selection anyway, naturally he was leisurely standing aside. Next. Duandong, his gaze swept across the remaining 8. I'll do it. Lord of the Black Ocean's eyes gleamed fiercely. He immediately took a big step forward. Seeing a warrior take the initiative, Duandong, he stood there and didn't say much, watching silently. Lord of the Black Ocean walked to the door of the Rubik's Cube. After a moment of hesitation he stepped in. The door closed. Following which the engravings on the surface of the Rubik's Cube lit up again. Luo Feng and the others waited silently. Just what was happening inside? The door opened and Lord of the Black Ocean too walked out with a face full of confusion. Duandong looked at the Master of the Black Sea, and there was a hint of fierceness in his eyes. He said coldly, you don't qualify. The hearts of the other experts trembled. Incompatible? No, I don't. Why am I not suitable? The Master of the Dark Sea grew anxious. He could not help but say, I've only lived for 3 reincarnation eras. That Lord of the Stag Insect has lived much longer than me. He is only slightly stronger than me because he has a supreme treasure. Why do I not fit the criteria? This was an opportunity for the bone race, and the Master of the Dark Sea was unwilling to give it up. Shut up. Duandong shouted. Next. Duandong looked at the other 7. Just now the only one who had taken the initiative, the Master of the Dark Sea, did not meet the criteria. This made the other 7 cautious, not daring to take the initiative. You. Duandong pointed at Lord Liogio. Master Lugio was qualified. The Rock Giant Lord didn't fit. The Master of Shadow Cloud was a match. The Master of the Voodoo Cages was a match. The Master of the Metal Cube was in line. The Master of the Dark Sea did not fit the description. The Master of the Scarlet Centipede didn't fit. You. Duandong was the last to point at Luo Feng. It was unknown if it was intentional or not. Because ever since the Master of the Dark Sea took the initiative and failed, the other warriors were all pointed at by Duandong. Luo Feng held his breath and walked towards the Rubik's Cube device, stepping through the door and entering. Inside the device there was an independent void. Luo Feng floated in space and surveyed his surroundings. There was no exit. Rumble, 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 warped engravings appeared in the space. The dazzling white engravings instantly covered the entire space. Waves of peculiar and unpredictable energy were born and permeated towards Luo Feng. Even with the Star Pagoda guarding his soul, even with the Mad Demon Destroyer armor protecting his body, it was useless. The peculiar and unpredictable energy tunneled into his body. At this moment, it was as though all of his secrets were exposed. The formless and peculiar energy continued to drill into his divine body, into every bit of his divine power, causing him to become one with Luo Feng. After a while, the twisting engravings in space began to dissipate, and only then did the peculiar energy dissipate completely. A door appeared in the space in front of him. Only then did Luo Feng step out of the door and into the hall outside. Everything that happened in the Rubik's Cube device just now still filled Luo Feng with doubts. You fit. Duandong nodded and revealed a smile. Smile? That's not right. There's a problem. The expressions of the Lord of Deerworm, the Lord of Shadow Dust, the Lord of Voodoo Chi and the others who had passed the first round of selection changed slightly. This was because this was the first time Duandong River's King Wu had smiled since the beginning. Based on the judgment of the various powerhouses, Duandong River was originally a very cold person. The illusion he left behind was definitely consistent with his original personality. You. Duandong pointed at the Lord of the Dark Sea, the Scarlet Bear Lord and the Giant Rock Lord. The three of you leave quickly. If you don't leave, only death awaits you. The Lord of the Dark Sea and the Scarlet Bear Lord glanced at each other. They were unwilling. The Bone Clan was completely annihilated just like that? The Giant Rock Lord, the stone special life form, also looked at Lord Lugio and said in a low voice, Lugio, the Giant Rock Lord can no longer protect you. Be careful. Lord Duandong, can you tell us why neither of us passed? The Lord of the Dark Sea couldn't help but ask. You are not of my race and yet you want to inherit the inheritance of my Duandong lineage? Dream on. Scram. Duandong said coldly. Race. Luo Feng, the Lord of the Deerworm Lord, and the others were all shocked. If one were to judge strictly, the 6 experts that passed weren't from the same race. In fact, not all of them were flesh and blood life forms. For example, Lord Lugio was a plant life form but she still passed. Race. The Lord of the Dark Sea and the Scarlet Bear Lord trembled. If this was the reason, then they would be in deep trouble. This meant that they had failed. Even if the other experts of the Bone Clan came, they would fail as well. Hurry up and scram. Duandong's eyes shone with a cold light. Let's go. The Lord of the Dark Sea and the Scarlet Bear Lord gritted their teeth and immediately transformed into beams of light. The Giant Rock Lord was also reluctant to bid farewell to Master Lugio, before he charged out and flew into the scarlet light. Following the crimson stream of light, time and space flowed, and the three of them quickly arrived at the control room. Humph. The Master of the Black Sea lowered his head and looked at the deep, crimson passage, gritting his teeth. If that's the reason, doesn't it mean that none of the Bone Race can succeed? Since that's the case, we the Bone Race will spread the news and let all the major forces know. Let a large number of experts rush over. We the Bone Race cannot succeed, and we cannot let the Holy-Eyed Race succeed easily. After all, 3 of the 6 people inside were from the Holy-Eyed Race. How could the Bone Race allow the Holy-Eyed Race to succeed? In the Hall of Dense Fog Palace, Duandong had gazed at the remaining 6 and said, those that aren't of my race naturally don't have the qualifications to obtain the inheritance. However, this is only the simplest screening, and also the safest screening. However, there will be life and death dangers down there. If you are afraid now, you can still retreat. P.S. Tomato summons recommendation tickets. Free recommendation tickets, everyone has them. Asterisk.